Okay, class. So I hope all of you would be good. And for today, we begin with an entirely new chapter. And this new chapter, this is entitled as the nervous coordination and response. Now, if you remember, when I started this course, and over there we have started this biology topic that we study about, and this would deal with the study of the living organisms. So in those living organisms, as where we discussed about the basic characteristic of the nutrition, the respiration, excretion, reproduction, growth, and the situations like such. So over there, I mentioned this one of the major characteristics that is available within the living organisms, and this is what we refer to this as the sensitivity, we say. So if I were to be guiding you about the word sensitivity, so the situation is that we living organisms are having two of the environments to deal with. There would be one environment that exists within our body, and that would be the internal environment. And at the same time, we have got this air surrounding us, and that air would be the external environment with us. And the situation is that in this external environment, the conditions that we have got, they would change. Like if you were in a playground and someone is throwing a ball onto you, so for sure you would cover your eyes with the hands or you would try to block the ball. And at the same time, mistakenly, when you are touching this hot object that was lying in the kitchen, so these are the changes in the environment, and these changes in the environment, they are referred to as a stimulus, we say. So the living organisms, when they try to detect the stimulus and when they respond against the stimulus, so this is what we refer to this as the sensitivity, and the readability, as the definition itself says, that this is the ability of the living organisms where they detect and where they respond toward the change in the environment, that we are referring to this as the stimulus, we say. So here the concern is that what would be the benefit of this sensitivity or the irritability characteristic that we have with us. So this would simply be enhancing our survival and the damage that can incur to the body. So by the sensitivity or the irritability, we try to keep that damage to the minimum extent. Like if we were touching the hot object and our hand was not moved rapidly out of it, then it would lead to more burning of it. So, in this chapter of the nervous coordination and response, we will talk about the situations related to it. Now, if I were to be taking you to a kind of a situation where there was this your hand, and then you have got this arm coming, and in the arm at the front, we have got these biceps muscles with us, and then on the back of the arm, we have these triceps muscles with us. Now there was this random day, and you went into the kitchen, and in the kitchen there was this hot pan lying, and mistakenly you touched it. So the time you touch this hot pan, so some communication would happen in between your hand and the biceps muscles, and these biceps muscles they would contract, and by the contraction of these muscles, what would happen that your hand it would be removed off the hot source, and the damage to your hand would be minimized. So if we were to think that what kind of a communication was brought here in between the hand and the biceps, and by the communication we mean is that how we try to be coordinate with one another. So you see that the hand literally did not speak to the biceps muscles that you are required to be contracting. So we have to actually see at the moment is that in this example what communication is brought about by. So we simply say that here the form of the communication that has existed between the hand and the biceps and the triceps muscles in your arm. So they are a kind of an electrical communication. This is not the verbal communication because these two organs they did not speak with one another. And we will look in a while at what do we mean by this electrical communication. But the idea is that whenever this basic communication would be brought about between the different body parts, so there always has to be a stimulus, a change in the environment. And this stimulus, it would be detected by these specialized, you could say, organs that we have in our body, and they would be the receptors with us. This is the same way as if you were in a home and some of your siblings, they have done some mistake or they have done some mischief. So you would be acting as a receptor and then you would be conveying it to your parents. So, likewise, after the receptors they have detected the change in the environment, so they would convey the information to the control center. As in case of the daily life example, as the mother and the father they act as a control center of your home. So, likewise, in our body, we would have these control centers coming, and these control centers would involve the brain and the spinal cord, and they literally would see that how severe or how serious the stimulus or the changes, and then from there the information would be conveyed to the effectors of your body, and they would be compelled to respond in such a way as to be minimizing the damage to your body. So here we are gonna look at how come this kind of a communication between the different organ is brought about by, and what do we mean by this electrical communication that I was talking about a while ago. So you see that when we say the word stimulus, so this is a change in the environment. Like if you were in a car and some hurdle came on your way, so for sure you would move the steering of your car. And if someone was throwing a ball onto you, so this again would be a change in the environment. And if you were there in some room and someone tried to be exposing the bright light onto your eye. So this again would be the stimulus. And here the point that we have to keep it in our mind is that every stimulus has got different energies associated with it. Like if there was a car coming towards you, it would have the kinetic energy. Same when someone was throwing a ball onto you, it would again have the kinetic energy when someone is making the exposure of the bright light onto your eye. So this again has got the light energy in it. And these energies they have to be converted into an electrical signal that is understood by the brain and the spinal cord that we have in our body. Now, after we are exposed to the stimulus, so the stimulus is detected by the receptor cells, we say, or by the receptors, we say. And as far as these receptors are to be bothered about, so they can either be some specialized organs. Like if I were to tell you about the ear, about the eyes and the skin and the tongue that we have got. So these are the organs and they have some specialized receptor cells in them. Likewise, in some areas of our body, there cannot be simply the organs, but rather than we would have some endings of the specialized cells, and these are the neuron cells. And what these receptors would do, that they would convert the energy that we have in the stimulus into an electrical signal, and that electrical signal is what we specifically call this as an electrical impulse, we say. Now, here you don't have to be confused. Like the usual elaboration of the student at this point is that the receptors, when they change the energy in the stimulus into an electrical impulse, so they believe that might be possible that could be due to the flow of electron, but rather we say that this is not the flow of electron, but rather than along the neuron cells that we have in this nervous system. So there would be a sudden change in the distribution of ions, and that would be a kind of a message that could only be perceived by the brain and the spinal cord. So after we have converted the energy that was present in the stimulus into an electrical impulse from the receptors, now this would be conveyed to these control centers or the coordinators. And these control centers or the coordinators, they basically have the brain we have with us, and then we have got the spinal cord with us. Now, what the brain and the spinal cord do, that they would simply try to perceive that how severe or how serious the stimulus is, and then they would decide a response. Now, that response in the form of again an electrical impulse would be conveyed to the effectors of your body. And among the effectors, we have these muscles with us, and then we have got these glands with us. And the muscles, when they are acting as an effector, so they would respond to an information which is coming from the brain and spinal cord by simply contracting. And whenever we have got these glands acting as an effector, so what these glands they would do, that they would secrete a chemical signal out of it, and that signal would be the hormone with us. So if I were to summarize it, so in this nervous communication or the electrical communication, there would be the stimulus, it would be detected by the receptors. The receptors would change into an electrical impulse that would be carried to the control centers, and from the control centers, this would be coming toward the effectors of your body. So in this way, our body, different organ, they would not only communicate with one another, but they would also allow our body to be responding to the changes in the environment so that our survival at any cost is not compromised. And in case if we are exposed to some serious kind of the stimulus, so the damage to our body should be kept at minimum. Now, since this is such a great characteristic of us, the multicellular organism, so this involves a system, and that system is the nervous system with us. And when we try to be splitting this nervous system, so this broadly falls into two distinct categories. We have coming up of this CNS with us, and then we have got this PNS with us. As far as the word CNS is to be bothered, so this is short for the central nervous system. And when we are saying PNS, so this is short for the peripheral nervous system. And this comes as it is in the exam. So in the central nervous system, we have the brain and we have the spinal cord, and they would be acting as a coordinator of our body. And when we talk about the peripheral nervous system, so this involves the cranial nerves, and then we have got these spinal nerves with us. So I believe that this word nerve that we have got, this might be tricking you, but you know for a while that our nervous system has got some functional cells in it, and those functional units, they are the neurons with us, and these neurons, they are conveying the information from one part of the body to another part of the body. So when I would try to be collecting them together, or when I would try to cluster them together, so we would make nerves out of it. So the collection of the neurons that connect the brain to the different parts of the body, so they would be the cranial nerve, and the collection of the neurons that would connect the spinal cord to the different parts of the body, so they would be the spinal nerve. So if I were to tell you the association between the CNS and the PNS from a daily life example, so it would make it more clear. Like if I were to say that we have got this house and then we have got this generator with us. Now, for instance, if I say that if I turn on the generator and if I don't connect the house with the help of the connecting wire, then turning the generator on would make no impact. So likewise, if the brain and the spinal cord, if they are the control centers of my body, so this is important that I need to be bringing their connectivity to the different body parts to be making the communication more efficient. So this is why not only the nervous system has the CNS in it, but this also has the PNS in it. So if I were to be showing you the diagram of this, so here you see that we have got this brain in our skull, and out of the brain the spinal nerves would emerge out, and immediately below the brain here we have got this spinal cord with us, and collectively they're making the central nervous system. And at the same time, if you were to see, so this is the spinal cord, and out of the spinal cord, we are taking the nerves out, and they are trying to be making a connection with most body parts. So they would be the nerves with us. And since these nerves, they are originating out of the spinal cord, so they would be referred to as the spinal nerves. And likewise, the brain also has got the connectivity with the different body parts. So the nerves that emerge out of the brain, so they would be the cranial nerves with us, and together this all is making the central nervous system of my body. So I hope you would be very much clear about the idea of what the sensitivity and the irritability is, what would make our nervous system. And for the next class, we will see that how come the specialized cells that we have within the central nervous system, how they're adapted to be doing their function. So see you for the next class.